Good afternoon on today's Angry Bulletin. To date, AARO has not discovered any empirical evidence that any sighting of a UAP represented off-world technology or the existence of a classified program that had not been properly reported to Congress. Investigative efforts determined that most sightings were the result of misidentification of ordinary objects and phenomena. Although many UAP reports remain unsolved, AARO assesses that if additional quality data were available, most of these cases could also be identified and resolved as ordinary objects or phenomena. Although the Pentagon's most recent UAP report are chock full of statements like this, they do not have a single statement about a 2023 incident involving U.S. fighter planes intercepting an object that certainly does not resemble an ordinary object or phenomena. Rather, the rounded edges of this object bear closer resemblance to the Tic Tac UFOs that were intercepted nearly 20 years ago over the Pacific. Why is the Pentagon being so dismissive when incidents like this continue to happen? All of this and more coming at you on the Angry Astronaut right now. Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to another Angry Alien Bulletin. So, ever since the Pentagon released their report, what they call a historical overview of the history of UAPs, that sort of thing, and ever since AARO, the department of the Pentagon that investigates UAPs, announced through their former leader, Dr. Kirkpatrick, that there was nothing to any of the rumors that the United States was concealing or reverse engineering alien technology, that there was no connection to any sort of extraterrestrial activity, that really, for the most part, in fact, perhaps for the entire UAP phenomenon, all of it could be written off to misidentification, natural phenomena, and experimental aircraft. And yet, at the same time, what this report apparently failed to mention is the fact that something very similar to a Tic Tac UFO, in fact, 4 of them were intercepted by U.S. fighter planes. Now, we don't have any details as to what sort of fighter planes they were, what sort of equipment they carried. However, it does appear that when these aircraft came into close proximity of one of these UAPs, all of a sudden, their tracking systems began to go down. They started to have malfunctions with their observation equipment. Apparently, though, some photographs and footage were taken of at least one of the craft involved. Footage, of course, that the rest of us don't get to see. So it would appear that there's definitely something going on here, because the craft that was observed does not correspond to anything that we would manufacture that might be able to fly, at least not fly at any sort of considerable velocity. And once again, this is something that was able to keep pace with U.S. supersonic fighter planes. So what really is going on here? What sort of details was a Freedom of Information Act able to crowbar out of the Pentagon, and how drastically does the reality of the situation, does the truth of this recent sighting conflict with the Pentagon's official story? But first of all, I would like to thank the following awesome people: Dave R., Michael Squires, Jazz San, I think, and I may have mispronounced that, John Gardner, Jamie Tackett, Robert Johnson, NP58364, and finally, Dave Simpson. My 8 newest Patreon members since April 1st. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very much, because recently Google has cut back even more on what we creators are getting from YouTube, and it is making it more and more difficult to make a living doing this sort of thing. And if you can't support me on Patreon, I would simply ask that you watch the first 30 seconds of every skippable ad. I get paid extra if you do that. that. And I've calculated that if you were to watch the first 30 seconds of these ads, you would watch a grand total of 6 minutes worth of advertisements for every hour of content. Not bad, really. So let's get on with the topic. I'm going to be quoting extensively from an article entitled "An Air Force Pilot's Bizarre Encounter with Capsule-like Craft Off Florida Declassified," and this is on the War Zone, not a news site that's dedicated towards UAPs under most circumstances, but apparently their journalists thought that this was newsworthy. So here's what we've discovered so far, again from this Freedom of Information Act that was submitted by an investigator from the Black Vault, not something that was voluntarily given to us by the Pentagon. Quote, "A U.S. Air Force pilot says they saw something they couldn't readily identify that was the size and shape of an Apollo spacecraft during a sortie from Eglin Air Force Base in Florida last year, according to recently declassified documents. 3 other unidentified objects were also tracked on radar during the incident, which, by the way, Florida Congressman Gates publicly disclosed last summer." So this is apparently the actual encounter that Congressman Gates was talking about last year. According to Michael Darmsey, an independent researcher, he was able to obtain the documents relating to the incident in question, which took place on January 26, 2023, shortly before the Pentagon's report was prepared over the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Florida via a Freedom of Information Act. John Greenwald, well known for his use of the Freedom of Information Act to uncover new details on a wide variety of topics, posted what Darmsey received on the Black Vault. Darmsey obtained 4 intelligence reports on the incident that are all redacted almost entirely, as well as 2 pages from a visitor's log of some kind that are also largely redacted. However, the release also included a hand drawing of what the pilot claims to have seen, as well as an unclassified summary of the incident. The Air Force further told Darmsey that a video from the incident also exists, but that this was being withheld for reasons of national security. The drawing, which you can see right here, shows a broadly pear-shaped object. Again, not quite like a Tic Tac, but the rounded edges bear lots of resemblance to the Tic Tac encounter. It looks a lot more like the Tic Tac UFOs than it looks like a flying saucer or a cylinder, for example. Annotations on the drawing said that one end had a gunmetal coloring and the other end was gray. A center section is marked as being orange-reddish, and a note at the bottom appears to say blurry air, which could indicate a heat distortion or some other type of disturbance, but no smoke associated with it. This is all in line with the description provided in an unclassified summary. Quote, "UAP-1 was likened to an Apollo spacecraft in size and shape, with an orange-reddish illuminated rounded bottom and the top section consisting of a 3-dimensional cone shape comprising gunmetal gray segmented panels." And by the way, the term UAP-1 reflects the fact that there were 3 additional UAPs observed via radar during the incident. The report goes on to say, quote, "On the 26th of January of 2023, a USAF pilot gained radar lock on 4 separate UAP. Upon approach, the pilot was able to make visual contact and employ sensors to obtain a screen capture on the first of these objects. The remaining 3 were only detected on radar. UAP-1 operated at an altitude of about 16,000 feet above ground level. The second and third UAPs were noted at altitudes of 17,000 and 18,000. The fourth was lost from radar and no altitude was reported. Moreover, no airspeeds were noted for any of the UAP in this report. Of note, upon closing to within 4,000 feet of UAP-1, the radar malfunctioned and remained disabled for the remainder of the event. Post-mission investigation revealed that the circuit breaker had triggered, but that maintenance technicians were unable to conclusively diagnose the fault. Now, Gates, a Republican representative from Florida disclosed a very similar incident in July of 2023, almost certainly the same incident. Quote, "They saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I and I alone have observed in the U.S. Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I am aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR, or forward-looking infrared system, malfunctioned, and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and that it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission." Now, after learning about this incident, Representative Gates, together with Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna, who are also Republican representatives, traveled to Eglin to get more information. Quote, "We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by the flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature, as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew, and initially we were not afforded access to the images and to the radar data. Thereafter, we had a bit of discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image, and we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries, and I am somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. Without seeing the imagery and other data that was collected during the January 2023 incident over the Gulf of Mexico, it is difficult to independently assess what the pilot may have seen. An Apollo Command Service module is just over 36 feet long and nearly 13 feet in diameter. So if the comment about the UAP being of a similar size is at all accurate, and if it includes both the command and the service module, then it would have been a pretty large object. Among what little is redacted in the 4 intelligence reports released into DARMSI are warnings that explicitly say not finally evaluated intelligence. The reports were all sent by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations Detachment at Eglin, primarily to the Defense Intelligence Agency. Interestingly, there are no clear indications that any of these reports were sent to the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. In the past 2 years or so, AARO has assessed dozens of UAP incidents to have involved identifiable objects such as balloons or drones. However, there are quite a number of other sightings that don't seem to correspond to any of those types of objects. So if nothing else, quote, "We were told by Matt Gates that he attended a classified briefing in which 2 pilots encountered what he could best describe as an orb during a routine training mission off the Gulf of Mexico. With this Freedom of Information Act request, we can confirm that the event took place." This is according to DARMSI and what he testified to the Black Vault. He went on to say, quote, "My next steps are to appeal the request for the video to verify what the object actually looks like, try to find any possible human origin for the craft, and to file more Freedom of Information Acts with regards to any investigation of the event by AARO or any other government organization." Best of luck to you, man. The Pentagon is generally not very cooperative. Hopefully, with a little bit of congressional help, we can get more information. But there's one thing that we can say for certain. The Pentagon is giving us a narrative, trying to tell the American public that there's nothing strange going on, that virtually every UAP sighting can be attributed to misidentified objects, natural phenomena, or just plain hoaxes, and there's nothing else really to say about the matter. But at the same time, the Pentagon also seems to be filing reports about incidents that have no relation whatsoever to misidentified objects or natural phenomena, and certainly not with hoaxes. There seems to be two narratives going on with the Pentagon, one for the general public and one that you can find with just a little bit of work and just a few Freedom of Information Act requests. What we eventually find out from all of this, what the actual truth might be, I think is still a long ways in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. It's very important to the success of my channel. And once again, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. And as always, stay angry about space.